How is everyone? Good. We're feeling it. Well, listen, I am excited to be in front of you. This is the most important industry. 75% of all world trade goes indirectly in every industry across all 27 industries. In technology and telecom, the numbers are higher for many of the vendors in the room here. It's very important. The last time you bought a car was probably from a dealer. Last time you bought a TV was probably from a retailer. Last jar of peanut butter was probably from a grocer. It happens in all of our lives, both consumer and in our business lives. So I wanted to prepare. I wanted to do a bunch of research, seeing that I am an analyst. So I went to Amazon to research, and I typed in direct. And there's quite a few resources on direct selling. So I'm thinking, with 75% of the world, there's got to be a lot of books. So how many do you think there are? Guesses? 20. There's a few more than that, but it still looks a little disproportional for a motion that covers most of what we do. So we're kind of the hidden gem, I think, of all industries, and especially in the technology industry. We talked about trusted advisors and everything else, but there's 5 trends to watch, not only for partners, for vendors, for distributors, for everyone in this industry. And these are accelerating trends, and they all kind of come together in the end. And I'm not talking about anyone in the audience here, so don't take this as this audience, but the broader channel is aging out. The average owner-principal today of a technology company is in their late 50s. So what this looks like, we had a pretty damaging 2008 recession, and we had a pretty fast drop in terms of the number of channel partners. There's 162,000 in North America. There's 600,000 globally. We had a big drop, and that hasn't improved. So unemployment is at its lowest rate. The stock market's at its highest rate. We're not having a funnel of new people come in and start companies fast enough to replace those that are retiring. Of the remaining companies, 40% plan to retire in the next 6 years. So I don't have to tell you about the challenges, in M&A right now, succession planning, everything else, but there's a big opportunity in terms of doing a demographic turnover. And then the last one is we're facing in that same 6 years, 75% of the entire channel will be millennials. And when I was talking 5 years ago or 10 years ago, my prediction was that these millennials would come buy these businesses, start new businesses, and continue on the tradition. And what we're finding at Forrester just recently is that's not happening. So the one trend that has become a much larger one, so about 7 or 8 years ago, we called this age of the customer. If you remember back in those days, shadow IT or rogue IT, where 10% of decisions were made outside of the IT department, and these new line of business executives were starting to produce this new shadow. Well, today that's number 65. 2/3 of every technology decision is made today outside of the IT department. This is the new normal. This number will be 80% in the next couple of years. What's shocking is in 1/3 of these cases, and accelerating, they're blocking IT from even being involved. They view IT as slow, bureaucratic, this compliance, the due diligence makes them suffer. So if you're a VP of marketing or sales and you need to get something going next week or you're going to be fired, you don't have 2 years to wait for a project to be implemented. You're going to do it yourself. So let's look at these buyers. A bunch of them, like consumers, when we go and buy that car, we walk in, we know a lot more than that dealer sales rep does about the car we're going to buy. And the same thing is happening here. These numbers are going up in terms of the research that's done beforehand, but these buyers are slightly different in terms of the way they transact. They do prefer working directly with vendors. It doesn't mean they don't work with channel partners. It just means that doing the old-fashioned billing, collections, AR type of stuff is going away in their minds. So we're starting to question now in the next 5 years, what does resell, or what's the play in terms of resell, and how important is it going to be going forward? But the one thing that comes every time we survey these decision makers is that the people they're dealing with are just not specialized enough. And that's really the third trend, called hyper-specialization. So for years and years, we've been talking about getting a vertical. and becoming specialized. So if you want healthcare, go read HIPAA and high tech, become an expert, build your resume around healthcare. Well, today that isn't enough. So today, hyper-specialization looks like this. So it's not just healthcare, one of the 27 industries. It's ambulatory care clinics with 50 doctors. That's my sub-industry. Your experience in big hospitals or your experience at small dentist offices doesn't matter to me. I want you to have a resume built around what I do and the resources I have. I'm a VP of marketing in this clinic. I don't want to talk about technology. I want to talk about leads. I want to talk about the predictive analytics and prescriptive and all the things that are going to make this work so I bring more patients in the door and I don't get fired next week. You speak my language is part of the specialization. Doing business here in Las Vegas at a clinic is a little different than New York, very different than Canada, extremely different than Europe and Asia. So there's a geographic nuance to what the regulations, legislations, compliance, and all that stuff is, depending on where you are. So your experience needs to be localized. Segment, sector, size, all important. And then the technology stack. I'm not just buying one application to drive more patients in the door. On average, I buy 7. So I want somebody on their resume to have done this 3 or 4 times before and are intimately inside on how to integrate these 7 things that I need. So if you multiply all that together, I did the math for you, it's 35 million solutions that are currently sitting in the marketplace, which is causing a lot of other changes, which I'll talk about in a minute. But these are a lot of conversations. If you're a vendor, there's no way your direct and your channels can get to that many conversations. As a channel partner, that's just a lot of conversations happening in your current accounts that might be outside your purview. So this is what's happening. 58% of those same buyers are hiring channels directly. They're not going to the IT department. They're going to their peer networks. They're talking to friends and neighbors, and they're going to bring people in the room that understand those 5 specialties. So when we went and asked a very pointed question, who are these people you're bringing in? Who are these trusted advisors that are helping you stack together these 7 things to help you drive leads? It was a little bit shocking in terms of what the answer was. There's a new buyer, and there happens to be a new set of channels that are emerging. I call them shadow channels because of shadow IT, but like shadow IT, these will become the new normal in a couple of years. So in today's business application space, there's about 20 winners. I show Salesforce as an example, but it's NetSuite, it's Workday, it's Marketo. All 20, you would recognize the name. They have all built their own channel organizations. And if you go to Dreamforce, there's 178,000 people in skinny jeans walking around that are adding value. They figured out that for every $1 of Salesforce, there's a $4.14 of revenue that comes downstream. Integration, implementation, installation, security, compliance, business continuity, it all comes. And today, it's at 40 to 75% margins. It's the richest margins today in the entire technology channel is in this business application layer. And there's a whole new generation of channel partners that have been built around these ecosystems. The other interesting thing to happen is every company in every industry is becoming a technology company. You read all these magazine articles about Uber and Airbnb and how it's transforming every industry. Well, every service industry of those industries, every service firm is also becoming technology. So when you look at accounting or legal or architects or digital agencies on the marketing side, you go look at their websites, they basically cut and paste many of your websites, and they look like technology companies. Remember those integration, implementation, all those things? They have it on their website. Some of them you have to go to page 4 to find out that they'll help you with your taxes and some of your accounting work as well. There is almost as many CPA accounting firms. There's actually a big conference you walked by this morning. There's almost as many CPA firms as there are channel partners in technology. 150,000 versus 162,000 in North America. This is a massive group coming into technology that's looking to win that downstream revenue. Another big winner has been the ISVs. I mentioned there's 35 million solutions that are out there. There's now 100,000 software companies that are building very specific solutions to win those 35 million conversations. That is up from 10,000 only 10 years ago. My prediction is that 100,000 is going to be 1 million 10 years from now. I believe that many people in this audience either have or are thinking about putting your IP into code. Going to GoDaddy, getting your URL, building out a side brand, or converting yourself into a software company. That's one of the things going forward. But these aren't companies that are building themselves to take over Microsoft. These are companies that go and solve for mid-sized clinics in upstate New York. They may only have 100 clients possible in their TAM, target addressable size. But they're going to go get 80% market share of that, and it's going to be at 50 to 75% margins. Very rich business, and very interesting once you start building adjacencies to it. The other explosion has been born in the cloud. These are firms that understand that they don't rely on front-end margins, the cut up front. They're not collecting, they're not reselling as a transaction. They're focusing only on downstream. Do you like my born in the cloud dude? I looked all across the internet for him. But they are playing the adult in the room. So again, as a VP of a mid-sized clinic, I can still go to jail for doing the wrong things, especially in Europe right now. I can get my CEO fired for privacy and for a bunch of other things, HIPAA and high tech and stuff. So there needs to be people involved in this downstream that understand the nuts and bolts, but haven't built their business model around traditional legacy ways to make money. It's all customer driven. In many cases, they don't even actually get any money from the vendor. It's all from the customer. And then the final, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, I was a founder of a startup for 5 years before Forrester, is there's 5,000 companies a year that get VC funding. And all that means is they have a real product and they have real customer logos. And all they're looking to do is get more customer logos. They don't need to make money. They don't need much else. So you give away free services. You give away free custom development. You get anything to get more logos. You get more logos, you go get another shot of heroin, VC funding, and life repeats. They are very much in front of these new buyers because they've built this beacon that works in mid-sized clinics. And they're going to go and give everything away to get your logo. So what does this all mean? In the end, most industries get more predictable after 37 years. They get more linear, they become more consolidated, more price compressed. This is going the opposite direction. If you count up the permutations and combinations of what I'm talking about, the size of the channel is going to explode. But it's not going to be in a traditional sense. If you're a vendor, these are not new partners that are going to come into your gold, silver, bronze program. These are going to be celestial partners that once in a while the stars and moon are going to align. You're going to jump in and win that deal and then jump out because that partner's maybe not coming back for another year. Because guess what? They're working downstream, making their money. But in the end, they're not taking any kind of program dollars from you other than maybe some business development dollars. And that's where the world is really going. So ask yourself as you walk away today, if you haven't read the E-Myth, it explains a lot of the origins of our industry. But what are your capabilities? If you were to heat map your customers today, where are the specific across those 5 specialties I talked about? What are the regional, the line of business? What are the segment, the sector, the sub-industry, and the technology plays that you're really good at, and probably the best in the world, if you focus there? And then, do you have the capacity, do you have the will to change, or is it going to take some partnering? As you've probably noticed, there's about 5 M&A activities a day now. Accountants are buying IT partners are buying digital agencies. These shadow channels are starting to converge, and picking up the talent may not be as easy as just building a new practice. Look at M&A, look at partnering. Every partner should have their own channel chief now, because partners having partners, knowing that no one owns a customer anymore, that there's going to be hundreds of different players at all different angles inside your accounts, and making sure that you're partnered there and adding your value where it makes sense. The second thing is start to shift, because of 2/3 decisions being made outside of IT, soon to be 80%, make sure that your content, your messaging, your marketing, your motions around sales are built around these new decision makers. Vendors need to do this to provide air cover. Partners need to do this to make sure that they're in front of these important 35 million conversations. Finally, become more hyper-specialized. The successful companies that we're tracking today understand on the heat map where they play well. And then once they've solidified that market, they look at adjacent swim lanes. They look at, maybe I'm doing well in upstate New York, I'm going to go over to New Jersey or Pennsylvania. I'm doing well in this technology stack, so I'm going to move and broaden it. I'm doing well at mid-sized clinics with 50 doctors. Well, I'm going to go up to small hospitals or up to large dentist offices. The fact of the matter is, once you build a base and you become a worldwide expert, it's now time to expand across that. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great conference.